And I'm happy to say that Simu Liu joins me now from Sydney, Australia. Hi.
Hello, or as we say in Australia, g'day, mate.
How is Australia during the pandemic?
Tom, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't want to seem too smug about this. Um, City's in really good shape. I actually went out for dinner over the weekend for the first time in over 2 months, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, we're still under social distancing regulations, so most restaurants can only seat about 10 people, but it's still just to even be able to like dress up, put pants on, go out, eat food that that's served to you. I mean these are all luxuries, of course, but it was definitely like just like such a sweet moment, and I'm looking forward to the day that the rest of the world can do that too.
I feel like you're in the future. Like, was it emotional to go back into a restaurant again?
Oh my God, it was so emotional. I first of all, I love all food, and there's I think nothing that I love more than, celebrating anything with a bunch of friends, whether it's like, a big life event or just a Tuesday night. And yeah, we were able to, we got a small group together, again, very, very small, but just to be around a table, just to have the conversation flowing while food and drinks are flowing is yeah, it was indescribably emotional, I would say.
So I should say you're in Australia doing production. I know this film Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings is supposed to come out in
Mhm.
2021. Has COVID-19 affected production?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. We were supposed to be wrapping up at this point. I was supposed to be getting ready to come back home and shoot this other little TV show that you may or may not have heard of, called Kim's Convenience. I was supposed to be really excited to come home, and now it just, it kind of seems like we're all taking it day by day, and yeah, just wishing that things would go back to normal.
Yeah, I know. They asked me to replace you in Kim's Convenience.
I was gonna say I feel like that would be a good move. I think if it was my sign off you were looking for, you definitely have it, and I look forward to seeing where you take the role of Jung Kim.
Me too. How it had to have been hard to experience this pandemic away from home, though.
Um, yeah, you know what? A big part of it is wanting my family, namely my parents, to be safe, and luckily, in talking to them on the phone, which we do every day, it's clear to me that they're really they've taken this entire situation very seriously. I know, a lot of millennials have had some issues with their parents and reining them in, making sure they're staying home. But luckily, my parents were very much on board with that, and have been doing so right from the get go. And then, the other thing is they're not particularly interesting people, so they didn't have a whole lot of things to get to other anyway. So it wasn't like it was taking them away from this like vibrant life that they had, jet setting all over the place. So it was, thankfully they're safe.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I want to go back to this role just one more time here. I mean, it was such a huge
Mhm.
news story when it came out. You were cast as Marvel's first Chinese superhero. Take me back to how you
Mhm.
felt when you found out you got the role.
Yeah, it was. I don't really remember too much about it other than it happened on July 20th, 2019 at about 6:15 p.m. And no, it was. I mean, it was the most incredible thing because it was at the same time so slow and so opaque in their decision making, to, once they did make the decision, all of a sudden being like, you have to be in San Diego in 4 days, and you have to go out in front of 8,000 people, and of course the entire world, and be announced to everyone. And then yeah, I'd kind of like very little time to mentally prepare for it, before I was just kind of thrust into it. Then all of a sudden, you're in San Diego, you're at the Hard Rock Cafe, the Hard Rock Hotel, right next to the San Diego Convention Center, and I'm like watching all of these movie stars that I idolized, sharing the stage with me. And then I'm having dinner with Angelina Jolie, because that's, I guess, how the seating chart worked over at Marvel, and then trying to trying to reconcile all of this in my brain. So it was, yeah, it was. I mean, one of the most incredible experiences of my life, and I'll never forget it. I don't think I'll ever go through another point in my life that was so anxiety ridden and nervous, but I'm happy to say that I got through it.
Last time you were on Q, you talked to me about how you had to fight this stereotype that Asian men, especially Asian men in acting, are seen as unathletic, undesirable, and that's something you've been kind of vocal about on Twitter. And it made me wonder whether you felt an extra shot of responsibility taking on this role, an added pressure.
Um, You know what? I would be lying if I said that that didn't exist, right? Going into taking on something that's like not only a superhero role, but like like you mentioned, the first of whatever it is, whether it's a Chinese superhero, Asian superhero in the MCU. I mean, I definitely did feel that going in. The thing is, we have a director by the name of Destin Daniel Cretton, and he is just incredible and amazing. And I watched all his movies going in, and I just kind of fell in love with each and every one of them, from Short Term 12 to his most recent Just Mercy, which was just one of my favorite movies to watch ever. It was just so incredibly powerful. And in sitting down with Destin, you really just get a sense of what he expects out of his actors on set, and for us, it was very clear and very important to him that I kind of go in feeling as free as possible, because I think it's very normal to feel nervous, and it's very normal to feel like you want to do a really good job, but where I think it starts to impact your freeness as an actor is where maybe we could tone it down a little bit. And so he really helped me realize that as much as you can put pressure on yourself, in any other time of the day, when you're on set and you're ready to work, you gotta just throw it all away and be free.
It's such a beautiful story. I read something you wrote recently. I was wondering if you'd tell it, if you feel okay with it, about being a superhero at birthday parties when you were a kid.
Hmm.
I mean, long before
Yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah, man. Well, the premise of the story is simple, and that's that people need to make money to survive. And when I started out auditioning, I obviously wasn't booking very often because I wasn't very good at what I was doing. But I did always have a knack for doing backflips in my backyard and all that junk. So I was kind of browsing through Craigslist, as one does when they're an out of work actor looking for gigs of any sort. And I came across this superhero and princess birthday party company. And so yeah, I sent in my details. I got the job. Of course, only playing superheroes where my face could not be seen, because obviously I couldn't play any of the ones that existed at the time. And that sustained me for the better part of a couple years. And sometimes they were really good experiences. Being in front of a lot of kids can both be extremely rewarding and just like maddening, depending on how the particular child was raised. So I definitely ran the gamut with the quality of birthday parties that I had to do.
It's it's such a beautiful story, and I don't want to poke at it on the nose too much here, but to
Hmm.
have to be in a at birthday parties where you have to wear a mask because you don't look like any of the superheroes, to becoming one of the superheroes that people can look at the screen and say, "Wow, there's a superhero that looks like me." See me like these things don't happen. I mean, it's sort of a movie in itself.
It is, and what's crazy is that the story is actually even great when you factor in, like, I wrote this tweet that was so tongue-in-cheek, a couple of years ago about, when Marvel first announced the movie. I was kind of like, hey, Marvel, are we gonna talk or what? Like, it wasn't meant to be serious or anything. It was just, I didn't know any better. It was just something that was off the cuff at the time. And then, even, years before that, I had the opportunity to write and direct a short film as a part of one of ACTRA's youth initiatives. And so I actually wrote, produced, and directed a short film about a superhero called the Crimson Defender. And, it's weird. It's weird. And, like Steve Jobs said in one of his speeches, in one of his famous speeches, you can only really connect the dots looking back. But it's crazy how much, as I look back over my life, I've been fixated by this idea of superheroes. Um, I guess I've always just really loved reading about them. Kind of feel like the Greek gods of our time, and very mythical figures. And I bought into it. I ate it all up. I love reading comic books, and yeah, it's kind of weird knowing that my face
Yeah,
is going to be on action figures at some point.
I'm not someone who believes in the universe thing, and the manifesting thing. And if you believe in that and you're watching this, my God, like all more power to you. But it's not really my thing. But it's hard not to see the power of belief in yourself when you look at your story.
God, it really is on the nose now that that you think about it. But yeah, yeah. I don't think it's anything really esoteric or like supernatural about manifesting energies in the universe, but I definitely do think that you attract. It's this general idea that you attract what you put out, and I think at least part of that must be true.
Well, we'll talk about it in a socially distanced beer very soon, Simu,
Sounds
when you can
good.
have
I would
carbs
love that.
again. Um,
Oh God,
I should
good. I'm
point
on a
out that I wanted to
break.
make. Oh, you can have all the beer you want.
Yeah, we don't know how long. I mean, we don't know how long this hiatus is going to last. Okay. I mean, it would be foolish. It would be foolish to commit myself to a full on diet without carbs or anything joyful for, I mean, we don't know how long this could last. You could be
Yeah, you're
potentially
right.
looking at no carbs for 6 months. I mean, that's just not feasible.
Yeah, I know. And I've had a pretty good 33-year streak of eating carbs and drinking beer, so I got to keep it up.
I think you're doing it right. I think you're doing it right. I think we have a mutual friend, Kumail, who is, very famously and vocally, sworn off carbs or any cake or sugar of any kind. And like honestly, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So there's a
No,
balance
no.
there
I'll take.
somewhere.
I'm gonna have a chicken nugget right now. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about this. The first thing anyone sees on your Twitter profile is this tweet from January, and it's related to COVID-19. You said, just
Mhm.
reminding you that the coronavirus doesn't give you an excuse to be we'll say, a D to Asian people. What's the story behind that tweet?
Yeah, well, the D is a very bad four-letter word that's sometimes used to describe a man. I'm kidding. Um, well, the tweet comes from when news first came out about this virus and that it originated from Asia, it's particularly China. I think it birthed a lot of really racist and xenophobic rhetoric that somehow all Asian people were responsible, or because of all of their certain things about their culture that that yeah, that they were responsible basically for the coming of this disease. And then as I think as the world became more and more affected, that rhetoric actually only increased. And when certain world leaders even insisted on referring to it as a Chinese virus, I think that kind of stoked the flames even more. And so what we saw, not only in Canada but around the world, really, is an increase in kind of Asian violence, and whether that was fully getting attacked on the street or just being verbally assaulted, even being bullied online. We're seeing more instances of that than we have in a really long time. And so yeah, again, I put out the tweet in much the same fashion that I do anything, which is very tongue in cheek. But, as the weeks went on, it became more and more important for me to kind of to kind of make sure that the world, was stayed reasonable and stayed and stayed compassionate and stayed good. And so it became a priority for me to make sure that that all Asian Canadians or Asian Americans, or wherever have you, Asian Australians, felt like they belonged. Because I think it's so easy to look at someone regardless of where they grew up, where they came from, the language that they speak, to just look at the color of their skin and all of a sudden reduce them to harmful stereotypes. And now more than ever, I know people are at home and they're anxious and they're maybe a little testy, they're a little angry, they're looking for someone to blame. That we make clear that this isn't the fault of an entire race of people, nor is it the fault of any individual, really. And what we need now in this time more than anything else is just more compassion, more caring, stepping up for each other, stepping up for our communities, for frontline healthcare workers, and supporting in any way that we can, right?
Absolutely. Simu, it's been a joy to talk to you. Before I let you go, the show Kim's Convenience, a launch pad for you in so many ways to great things, but I also know it's your home as well. And we've been thinking a lot about folks who have been working in convenience stores, people working in grocery stores all across this country right now, still working throughout this pandemic. Anything you want to say to them?
Um, just to keep going, just to keep going. That my heart is with them, and with all essential workers and frontline healthcare workers, and we will get through it.
Simu, what a joy to talk to you.
Likewise, man. It's been a while.